Let's talk about deferred compensation, right? It's a term that many of you have probably heard, but it's something that we get a lot of questions on, especially for higher income earning individuals. They see this term that pops up during the open enrollment period of their company, and they're saying, "What is deferred compensation, and how do we take advantage of it, or is there a way to really use it efficiently?" So let's go through that. So today, what I want to do is I want to talk about three different things. Number one, what is it, right? What is deferred compensation? Number two, how does it work? And does it make sense for you? And then number three, what are some tactics or just strategies that we can use going forward to utilize it efficiently and really build a plan around what you're trying to achieve? So deferred compensation is really, it's a plan that's put forth for individuals that allows you to defer income, right? Or defer compensation. That's where the name comes from. So there's two different types. There's what's called a qualified deferred compensation plan, and that would be like a 401k or a 403b or even a pension plan, right? Something that you're putting into and taking a portion of your income now and deferring it for later. That's what most people are taking part in through their employer, and that's deferred compensation through a qualified plan. There's also what's called a non-qualified deferred compensation plan, and that's what we're really going to be talking about here today, and that's for higher income individuals, and it's a plan that's put forth through the company that's basically stating that higher income individuals, as an incentive to them and an incentive to continue to allow them to stay with the company, they're going to allow them to defer some of their compensation for later on. So how does that work, right? In a nutshell, what they're doing is they're taking a portion of their salary or a portion of their compensation, and they're putting it into an investment vehicle that will continue to grow tax deferred. So just like many of your 401ks, you put money in and it grows tax deferred each year, meaning you're not paying taxes on the gains each year. It continues to grow and grow and grow. And then whenever you take it out of the plan, that's when you pay taxes on it. Well, deferred compensation works the same way. You're removing a specified amount. So if you said, I want to remove 20% of my salary and defer it into the deferred compensation plan, right? That's the specified amount. And what you're also picking is how you're going to take out those withdrawals. So many plans will allow you to take a lump sum distribution after retirement. Some plans will allow you to take a yearly distribution over a 10-year period after retirement. It's very plan specific as to the options you have available to you. And that's truly how you build the strategy for retirement going forward. So let's just take a look at how deferred compensation would work in terms of putting dollars to it. So in scenario one here, let's say an individual is making $250,000 a year as a salary. And if they're in a 30% tax bracket, and that's completely just a scenario we're running here, they would owe, in that example, $75,000 in taxes. So you look at that, I just took the $250,000 in salary, took it times the 30% tax bracket, they would owe $75,000 in taxes. If we look at the advantage of what deferred compensation does, if that same individual is making $250,000 but decided to defer, let's say 20% of their income. So let's say that they're in great shape with their emergency fund, they have a good handle on their debt situation, and they're able to defer some of that cash flow or that income on a monthly basis, and they decided to do 20% of that, that would be approximately $50,000. If they deferred that $50,000 and they're still at the 30% tax bracket, now they're only paying taxes on the $200,000 of actual income that they're showing. So if we look at this, you can see the $250,000 is what they show as a salary. The $50,000 we're able to defer until later, meaning we are not being charged taxes on that money now, and it can continue to grow tax deferred for the future. So now that 30% tax bracket, right, is only being assessed to the $200,000 of actual income that we're showing on the W-2 or 1099. So the total amount of taxes owed for that year dropped from $75,000 in scenario one down to $60,000 owed. So the two advantages that they have there, or this individual has in scenario 2, is number one, they saved $15,000 in taxes this year, and they also were able to put $50,000 saved or deferred for the future. So they saved $50,000 for their future and paid $15,000 less in taxes to do it than they would have in scenario 1. And here's the beautiful thing about this 50,000. When we start looking for the future, typically what we see is you're at a smaller or lower tax bracket in retirement than you are during your peak earning career, right? So, if you're making $250,000 of gross income now, and that's what you're taxed on, if you're making something substantially less in retirement, your tax bracket is lower, which means when you take out this $50,000 in the future, you're paying a smaller tax bracket on that money, and it also is allowed to grow tax deferred for you. So let's look at that in scenario 3. If we look at the now versus the future, and these are strictly hypothetical, so there is no investment anything here. We're just running hypothetical numbers for this summary purpose. But if we look at it, if let's say now you were going to take that $50,000 out or not do the deferred comp plan, that $50,000 that you would be taking out is taxed at 30%. 30% of $50,000 is a $15,000 tax amount that's owed. By deferring this, and let's just run with the rule of 72, right? Which means if you average a 7.2% gain for 10 years, you double that investment. So let's say we're 10 years in the future. This individual deferred that $50,000 10 years ago, put it into an investment vehicle, average 7.2%. Now it's worth $100,000. But because his income is substantially less now that he's entering retirement, he's only actually in a 15% tax bracket, not a 30% tax bracket. So what we're seeing is he has twice the amount of money. He's in a 15% tax bracket instead of 30%, and he's paying the exact same amount in tax. He's only paying $15,000 total in taxes in that example. He's netting $85,000 in the future example, where in the now example, he would only be netting $35,000. It's a huge difference, right? So if you look at it, he doubled his money and cut his tax bill in half versus having half the money in doubling the tax bill, right? So if I showed this to you, which one do you want, now or future? Everybody wants the future. They want more money and less taxes, right? Let's dive back into the deferred compensation PowerPoint here. So key takeaways to understand before we start diving into some of these strategies, right? Deferred compensation plans, they're incentives for employees, right, from their employers to use because they want to hold on to these key employees. Typically, we see it with higher income earners, right? Manager type level situations, executive type level positions. Like we had said before, there can be qualified plans and non-qualified plans. We're not going to dive through those in detail today. I just want to give a general summary. If you have questions, we can go through that together just in a one-on-one meeting or phone call. And ultimately, what it allows you to do is to structure a plan around your current tax situation and also allows you to build wealth for the future. So when we look at some of the tactics and strategies, right, number one is just talking about if you're a high income individual, right? So if you're an individual that produces amount of income that is high and it forces you to be paying an exorbitant amount of taxes, a great conversation to have around that open enrollment period would be starting to look at utilizing deferred compensation as a way to defer some of those taxes for the future. So if we ran that same scenario and we go back to scenario 1 where we dove down through or we dive in deep, if you're making $250,000 in a 30% tax bracket, you're paying $75,000. If we can immediately defer some of that income, if you don't need it, right? Meaning that if you're doing everything you're supposed to do, you're adding to your emergency fund or you have added, you've paid off your debts, you're adding to your 401k, adding to your Roth, doing everything you're supposed to, right? And we're able to defer some of that income, you're immediately in this example saving approximately $15,000 in taxes. So for high income earning individuals, just deferring taxes or deferring the income for future can save you quite a bit in taxes on a yearly basis. I know there's specific companies out there that will allow you to defer anywhere from 50 to 75% of your salary on a yearly basis. Individuals that get restricted stock units or that are exercising restricted stock units, utilizing a deferred compensation plan to help offset some of those taxes is also a beautiful thing that you can build a structure around. When we look at let me dive back to the PowerPoint again here. Next scenario or next strategy I want to dive into is people that want to retire young. You're 40 years old, 50-year-old, want to retire, let's say at 60 years old, or want to retire at 55, right? So there's certain stipulations depending on your deferred comp plan where you can structure your plan around when you want to take distributions. So let's run a scenario off this. So let's say you're 50 years old and you want to retire at age 60, but we're really looking at it saying your company doesn't have any pensions. You don't want to touch your IRAs if you don't have to. And really, the only income you would have is just investments that are out there. And how do we build a plan around this? So if you're 50 years old now, if you're 50 years old, 50, 51, 52, all the way down. And let's say that we put away or deferred, in this example, $50,000 each year, or 20% of that $250,000 salary. So what we're able to do, number one, is we're saving taxes each year by deferring that income. What we're able to do, number two, is we're saving that money and investing it for the future. But for this example, let's just say that this 50,000, right, that you put away, let's say it never even grew. Let's just use round numbers. So you have 555,000 in this example that you saved, and let's just say you never even put it in anything risky. It was just in a money market fund inside the deferred comp plan, right? Just to make math easy for this example. So you put away $550,000. And what we're doing when we're looking at this is each time you add money to the deferred comp plan, you can choose a distribution model. So if we sat down together and we're building a financial plan around what your goals are, and we know that the most efficient route for you to take retirement or go into retirement is to delay, let's say, Social Security until age 66, right? Your full retirement age. We don't want to take Social Security till age 66 because we know it'll be exponentially higher. We don't want to touch your IRAs because we don't want to show any additional income that would be coming in during that time. And we want to be able to have an income stream above or beyond, let's say, a small pension that you have that turned on. So let's say the company is giving you $3,000 a month as a pension. What we would look at is we'd look at the distribution options available to you. And some companies offer a distribution that would be an annual distribution or a quarterly distribution over a 5-year period. So what they're doing is they're taking this $550,000 and they're giving you 5 payouts if it were on an annualized basis. So 5 payouts off of that, and this is strictly a summary, right, would be $110,000 a year of income that would be coming into you over that first 5-year period, right? So if you said, I want to take a 1/5 payout over 5 years, they'd be paying you in this example $110,000 a year for the first 5 years of retirement. Now, for some pension plans, you don't have to take the pension as soon as you retire. So if I sat down with this individual at age 60 and they didn't want to take Social Security until age 66, and they're saying, should I take my pension right away, or should I let my pension grow until age 65 when I'm at the full retirement age to get the most out of that system? The first question I say is, how much money are you currently taking home every 2 weeks, right? How much are they used to living off of? And let's say they needed, let's say they needed $7,000 on a monthly basis to pay all their bills and have the lifestyle that they want. Well, 110,000, right? Divided by 12 would already get them almost $9,200 a month in that example. We would delay the pension, let it continue to grow. We would allow Social Security to grow in the background. When deferred comp ends, we would turn on the pension at a larger amount and turn on Social Security when it's at full retirement age, which is also a raise for them, and then start to assess, do we need to turn on any of the IRAs or other investment accounts? So for a young individual, if they retired at 60 but wanted to delay income until 65, by utilizing a deferred comp plan starting at age 50 and putting away a certain amount of money, we're able to solve that situation for them to get the absolute most out of their retirement need. Third thing I'm going to talk about in terms of just running that scenario, and that's for married couples, right? So everybody thinks of their retirement plan as theirs, but really if you're married, you've been married for some time and know you're going to be married for a long time going forward, you need to view your entire retirement plan as one big pie, right? One big holistic piece that you're looking at. And for married couples, when we run this scenario and we look down through, if we ran this same math, let's say that you're a married couple, and let's say one of you is making, works for a large corporation making $250,000 a year, and the other individual, let's say, is a small business owner, right? And really it's just, let's say you and a few employees, and you're limited by your retirement choices, right? You're too small of a company to even have a 401k, or let's say you're a consultant and it's just you and you make good income, but ultimately you don't have a lot of options to defer some of your retirement savings or defer different things. Number one, you can utilize the 401k through the large corporation to max that out, which you should. Number two, what you can do is you can utilize the deferred comp plan to put additional savings away to help offset the spouse that's not able to save for retirement. So if that individual is making $200,000 a year of income but doesn't have the same type of savings vehicles available to them, defer more of the $250,000 income to offset the income that you're showing through the consulting job or through the small business job where you can't defer that income. So you can defer the income off the $250,000 at a larger rate to offset the income that you're showing where you don't have those vehicles available to you. So it's the same scenario. If you're able to live off of this $200,000 and this is extra, rather than pay the taxes now when both of you are making combined income of $450,000, defer that income to reduce the tax bill. And then when you're in a smaller tax bracket in the future, you take the distributions over a period of time to solve that problem for you or to solve that shortfall of income until we want to turn on those vehicles in retirement. So in review, deferred comp as a whole can be very confusing. There is a multitude of strategies that need to go into a plan that's designed just for you and what you're looking for. Ultimately, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We do this all the time. We do it every day. You need to peel back all the layers of the onion and look at the underlying plan that you have and then build a strategy around it with the capabilities of the deferred compensation plan. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, give us a call, shoot us an email. Glad to talk to you at any time. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care.